And I'm here with you because our clown Congress has put on its face makeup and waited till the last second on a Friday evening to confirm the most preposterous cabinet nominee in, I want to say, American history, certainly in my lifetime. We now have a weekend talk show host, a weekend talk show co-host as the Secretary of Defense in our idiocracy.
Congress went and did it. They confirmed Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. It's insane. Tim Miller broke all this down. We're going to take a look at clips from his show, The Bulwark. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
There's a lot of drama over on the Hill. There were some rumors going around that Pete Hegseth might not actually get confirmed today. Tom Tillis, Republican senator of North Carolina, had expressed some concerns about the sworn affidavits regarding Pete Hegseth's treatment of women, his drunkenness, his just horrific judgment that he's demonstrated in his personal life. Judgment that, as you might remember, included having to finalize a settlement. We learned recently a $50,000 settlement with a woman who accused him of sexual assault while he was at a Republican function at a hotel in California where he was drinking. And as the story goes, as he tells the story, he brought a woman back to a married woman to her hotel room to have consensual sex with her while he was still married to his second wife, and while his now current wife, his third wife, was at home with their 2-month-old child. So that was his story. He also shouted down a hotel staffer around 1 a.m. during that exchange. So that's the guy that is running the Pentagon now. Lost my train of thought there. Circling back to Tom Tillis. So anyway, Tom Tillis, had he decided to go against Hegseth might have gone down because you needed 4 Republican no votes. Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska had been on the record before tonight saying that they were going to vote against Hegseth. So that took the total number of votes to 51. There were strong rumors that Mitch McConnell was going to vote against Pete Hegseth. He did, which took the number down to 50. So there needed to be one more Republican no vote. The rumors going around were Tom Tillis, but Tom Tillis has a big election coming up next year. Next year, 2026. There's some discussions that MAGA might challenge him if he deviates from what Trump wants, and so I guess his concerns were assuaged regarding Hegseth, and Hegseth's spin was to Tillis more compelling because of his motivated reasoning than the affidavits that were filed by multiple women. And I should throw out there the email that his mother sent him, calling him an abuser of women. So that takes us to 50-50. If there's a 50-50 vote, the vice president is the tie-breaking vote. In this case, that's J.D. Vance. J.D. is headed to the Senate as I tape this right now to be the tie-breaking vote. I want to put some context in here just about how silly this is. Not just related to Pete himself. I kind of want to take Pete out of it for a second. But the Secretary of Defense is not like some of these other political roles in government. It's not like, confirming a circuit court judge, who could be overruled by the Supreme Court if they turned out to be, not unserious or, too biased, too partisan. It's not like confirming, a staff or some type of staffer inside the government or inside of, one of the departments that has, more political leanings. Like, obviously there are going to be, very deep philosophical disagreements between the party on the scope of the Environmental Protection Agency. I wouldn't expect too many Democratic votes for a Republican EPA pick or vice versa. The Defense Department isn't like that, right? Like the Secretary of Defense is A, in charge of the largest bureaucracy in the world, and B, is in charge of being the representative of all Americans in the military, no matter their political persuasion. They are in charge of protecting this country and prioritizing its safety over any, political concerns or, over their own, ideological desires. We've had some bad defense secretaries, Rumsfeld, and we've had a couple bad defense secretaries in both parties before. But we've always had defense secretaries that were generally considered across partisan lines to be serious people, to be people that had a resume and a preparedness and a mindset, a temperament to do this critical job.
And I think these are really good points that Tim Miller is making here. And I could see if Trump and the Republicans took this clown Hegseth and made him ambassador to some tiny country where, he can't cause any real problems or anything. But as Tim Miller is saying here, we're talking about the largest bureaucracy in the world. So this massive, massive organization, which Pete Hegseth has no experience running an organization like this. And, just because somebody was in the military does not mean that they could be Secretary of Defense. My father was in the Navy, and my dad is a great guy, and I love him, but he could not be the Secretary of Defense. He couldn't run, he has no experience doing anything like that. He was in the military for a few years, but he could not oversee that large organization. And the thing to me about the Republican politicians is if you put a clown like Hegseth in a role of ambassador to some small country, again, they can't cause too many problems, but you put him as a Secretary of Defense, that can affect all of us, even the Republican members of Congress and Donald Trump and Elon Musk. God forbid something like a nuclear war would take place. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it did, even the Republicans in Congress would not be protected from that. They probably don't have underground or undersea or whatever bunkers that they could live in, live out the rest of their lives and survive all of this. So I don't know why they wouldn't be concerned about having this idiot in place there.
And just kind of going through this, some of these past defense secretary confirmation votes, just to show you how out of the norm this is. Lloyd Austin, Biden's defense secretary, confirmed 93-2. Mark Esper, Trump's last defense secretary, confirmed 90-8. James Mattis, Trump's first defense secretary, confirmed 98-1. Ash Carter, Obama's 93-5. Leon Panetta, the prior Obama defense secretary, confirmed 100-0. Bob Gates, who was defense secretary for both Bush and Obama, was confirmed 95-2. Pete Hegseth is looking down the barrel of 50-50. So just, in those kind of recent confirmations, Mark Esper with 8 no votes was the high watermark. Pete Hegseth has 50 no votes. It is fucking ludicrous to confirm a defense secretary who has unanimous opposition from the other party and opposition from within the party of the president that nominated him. So, we are going to install someone in charge of the military for whom there was bipartisan opposition against, and for whom there wasn't even a majority support for in the Senate. You could sell me on that for the Commerce Secretary of the EPA, like I said, some of these other jobs, but to jam through a plainly unqualified person that is a just utter disaster across every metric, their personal life, their management of the only 2 small organizations that they had managed before, their performance as a co-host on a morning couch show. To jam this person through on a 50-50, not even a party line vote, bipartisan against him vote is ludicrous. It is absurd in the extreme. Any serious person could not look at this and think, this is how we should run the country. You would think that for a position as important as this, you could find somebody that would have the confidence of at least a bare majority of the United States Senate, especially considering Republicans have more than a bare majority, have a 53 vote majority in that Senate. Trump has already done this twice, Esper and Mattis, 98 and 90 votes, respectively. Instead, he's like turning to the celebrity apprentice of defense secretaries.
And like Tim Miller is saying, I mean, this is just, it's insanity. We've never had a president, at least in the modern era, the 20th century and beyond, that would have put up someone so unqualified as Pete Hegseth. And take the qualification aspect out of it. When you talk about all of these affairs and things that he has been involved in, you also have a person who is a risk of being susceptible to spies. I mean, if you just put a beautiful woman from Russia in front of this guy and give him a couple of drinks, what might he do? I mean, it's really scary. It's just unbelievable. I mean, even for Trump, as moronic and unqualified as Trump is, you'd think there would have been some people around him who would have said, hey, here's somebody qualified that we can put in this position. But this is really an example of something where we just have to brace for the next 4 years. I mean, maybe he'll get fired before that. We can cross our fingers over that, but we just have to brace over the next 4 years that this moron Pete Hegseth, along with his moron boss, Donald Trump, doesn't get us involved in some other gigantic war. But let me know what you think about this. Is Tim Miller right that Pete Hegseth is the most unqualified cabinet nominee ever in the history of the country, or at least in, the lifetimes of anybody that would be watching this video the last 50 to 100 years? Is he the most unqualified? Let me know in the comments what you think of all this. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. Channel's growing quickly, and I want it to continue to grow. This is Chris on Culture. I will see you in the next video.